Welcome everyone, Costini here with a discussion about the Greenskins in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires and why they are such an awesome race. To be clear, some of their Legendary Lord campaigns, be it Skarsnik, Warzag, and Grom even, to some extent do leave some things to be desired, but as a race, the Greenskins work exceptionally well given the meta of Warhammer 3, which is an early game aggressive meta. And one point I wish to make on this, because some people are like, well, you don't have to play as aggressively as possible. Sure, but here's the thing about that. The most amount of challenge that you will ever have in a campaign, regardless of how you choose to play, is always going to be in the early game. So the races that can handle that early game well are the best races in the game. Think of the Dwarves, think of the Empire, think of the Dark Elves, think of the Greenskins, and the Skaven. Those would be really good races. Other races don't handle it quite as well, though some of them do pretty well, like, Chaos Dwarfs, for instance. But point is, races that can handle that situation well and can expand aggressively and can be aggressive are just going to flat out do better. That's simply a fact in Warhammer 3. And the Greenskins have a lot of things going for them in this respect. So for instance, let's consider their unit roster situation. While there are some things that are obviously missing, in particular with regards to, say, flying units, that is a downside for the Greenskins, they do have, from very early on, really solid archers. Goblin archers aren't the best archers in the game, far from it, they're pretty pathetic. But here's the thing about Goblin archers. They're very cheap, they are expendable, and because of the way the research tree works for the Greenskins, they get a substantial number of upgrades very, very early on. And that is a substantial level of power, because it's not just the stats in isolation, it's the stats combined with the things that you can actually access very quickly within a couple of turns from the research tree. And then you gotta consider the situation that you have with goblins, because you can also get Goblin Tide, which increases their armor by 15, which is a fairly substantial amount. Then at tier 2, you have Nasty Skulkers. Nasty Skulkers are a ridiculously strong unit in the early game. Sure, their leadership is questionable to say the least, but they slow down enemy units. Most of their damage is armor-piercing damage, and they have Opportunistic Murder, which further increases their melee attack and armor-piercing damage. This makes Nasty Skulkers one of the best early-game infantry units in the game. Not the most durable, but the one that can win you battles even against far more powerful opponents. And again, they are relatively cheap to acquire, even if they don't have the best leadership in the world. Though there are ways around that. There's various upgrades, various skills, all that kind of stuff that you do have access with as the Greenskins. But here's the thing: as the Greenskins, you have one of the easiest ways to either recruit an army or to grow your settlements in the game, because every settlement that you control in a province gives you one local recruitment capacity. So that means you can recruit a bunch of these very cheap but fairly effective units for their cost very early on. And that is a substantial level of power. On top of that, Greenskin structures generate the highest or one of the highest levels of growth in the game. Because, yeah, the base structure may not necessarily generate the most amount of growth, but you don't necessarily need a huge amount of structure, so you can focus on the boss pole, or plenty of these boss poles. Then you have a commandment that increases your growth by 20, and then you have the Wa meter, which further increases that growth by quite a bit. While Bretonnia has overall the best amount of growth in the game by far, Greenskins do grow very quickly. And furthermore, it's worth pointing out that Greenskin structures aren't necessarily as expensive as the structures of other races. So not only can you grow your settlements and get those surplus points, but you can actually use that growth in order to construct structures. That is a particular benefit for the Greenskins. Furthermore, With regards to taking settlements, you can, when you're conquering a territory, you can potentially, you have a chance when you're occupying or looting and occupying a settlement of taking that settlement at the same level it was at before. So for instance, over here I conquered Uskolak. I was able to take it as a tier 4 settlement, which it was before. It can be a bit flimsy, to be certain, like I didn't have that kind of success over here with Zarnagrund, at least with the city itself, but it's still a huge level of power. On top of that, while Greenskins may not generate the most amount of money through structures, because they start at 250, they go to 500, that's pretty decent, by the way. That is not bad. Compared to many other races, that's not bad, but they can't trade, they don't get the benefits from resource buildings, economically speaking. But here's the thing about Greenskins. They have one of the highest levels of post-battle loot in the game. Not only do they generate inherently more post-battle loot than other races, that's at least how I feel about it. Like, you compare, say, High Elves versus Greenskins, the amount of post-battle loot they generate inherently, that is a fairly substantial amount of power. But you then have various ancillaries, at least for a moment. We'll see if Creative Assembly changes that, but you have various ancillaries that buff post-battle loot, buffs income from sacking settlements. This gives you a significant amount of money, which in turn allows you to maintain a significant amount of armies, and not low-quality armies necessarily. Sure, all of the armies that you're seeing here are mainly made up of archers, goblins, and a couple of greenskins. But that's because I didn't necessarily need higher quality stuff. But that higher quality, those higher quality units are available. Even if you don't capture a settlement as, say, tier 4 or tier 5, which you, by the way, can with Zarnagrund, you will still have relatively easy access to things like stone trolls, biggins, black orcs, night goblins, and heroes. The only hero that you can't increase capacity for the Greenskins easily is the Goblin Big Boss. And honestly, who gives a shit? Because the Goblin Big Boss is not the best in combat. He's not the best in terms of the abilities he offers, because all he really offers is scavenge. If there is anything that the Greenskins do need, is that their generic lords and their heroes, and many of their heroes, with the exception of like Black Orc Big Bosses, they do need special skill line. All of them, except like Black Orc Big Bosses. That is something that is certainly lacking in a Greenskin campaign, so the lords leading the armies are not the most interesting ones. They get the job done, but still, not necessarily the most exciting ones. And you're basically incentivized, if you're going with goblins, to get goblin great shamans. Yeah, I'm using the recruit defeat the Legion Lord mod over here. But here's another thing with respect to this. Because you have really good infantry with black orcs or biggins, good archers with night goblin archers or night goblin archer fanatics that have poison. Again, not the best archers in the game, but cost. You gotta consider the cost situation. You have easy access to magic, and orc shamans do have pretty solid magic. You have access to replenishment for giant river troll hags. You have access to the best monstrous unit in the game, at least on land, with the rogue idol. Sure, it's slow, but this thing takes a huge amount of damage and is very difficult to kill. So there are a lot of significant powers. You even have good cavalry with the ability of getting orc boar biggins, which, yeah, maybe they don't have the highest level of armor, but they have pretty decent stats. And honestly, Greenskins, I don't think they really struggle against cavalry all that much. They struggle against artillery. You do have Doom Divers and Goblin Rock Lobbers, so you do have access to artillery. Actually, you have better access to artillery than Kislev, but you may not necessarily need artillery because you have a bunch of fast-moving units, you have chariots, or rather pump wagons. And interestingly, about those pump wagons, they're actually quite effective in battle with their cycle charging capability. They should not be underestimated. I've made that mistake plenty of times over, and let's just say that I've regretted it every single time that it has happened. Point is, you do have a great deal of power on land. Your vulnerability is with regards to flying units, in particular flying range units. So yeah, goblin, dwarf gyrocopters can be an issue to deal with. In particular, but honestly, if you're letting the dwarves, if you're fighting a fair fight against the dwarves, you're not playing Greenskins properly. Because you shouldn't fight dwarves, oh, I have this number of armies, I have 1 army or 2 armies or 3 armies, and I'm going to fight 3 armies of dwarves. You should have 10, 20, 30 armies. And it doesn't matter what units they have. They could have doomstacks of thunder barges. When you outnumber them 10 to 1, you will win. Unless it's another player, that is a different discussion, or Malachite's particular level of bullshit. But surprisingly, Greenskins also have a good amount of diplomatic capability, at least given the way where their campaigns start. Particularly Skaven like you, and don't underestimate Skaven as allies because they are quite ridiculous. You're one of the few races in the game who doesn't have a significant level of aversion with the Skaven. And so you can rely on the Skaven as really good allies in your campaign if you so decide to make it so. Or you can pulverize the rats. Pro tip on this subject, never ally Tretch. He will betray you. It's something that I've experienced in many campaigns. Like, if it's like Queek is the only reliable Skaven, well, Queek and Snitch. Other Skaven less so, but still you do have the Skaven as potential allies. You have the Ogres, which, yeah, they're pretty pathetic right now, but they're gonna become much better. But you don't have an easy time necessarily with diplomacy because you also have Chaos Dwarves and regular Dwarves to contend with, and other races do really despise you in quite a few ways. Though not necessarily as universally as you might think, like Cafe has -40 aversion, Kislev has -40, that is manageable from a diplomatic standpoint. In fact, one of the things I like doing if I'm playing Azag is obliterating the Empire, of course, and the Dwarves, but then allying Kislev and Vlad and making the Giga Alliance as Azag. Which you, by the way, can also do as Grimgore, so although Azag, I think, has a bit of an easier time, in particular with dealing with the vampires, because vampires may not like Greenskins all that much, but still, only -40 aversion. And while, yes, you have things like High Elves, you have things like the Empire that really, and Dwarves that really do despise you, the fact that you have so many races that don't have a critical level of aversion with you means you do have those diplomatic capabilities. Or you can just smash everyone's head, and that always works as well. Like, that's a great thing about Greenskins. You have a variety of playstyles that do work. And you are really powerful. But you're powerful if you play the game well. You're powerful if you manage your armies, if you manage your income, if you manage sacking and looting settlements, building up your armies properly. You're not like some other races where you're just like auto-resolving your way through every single battle in the campaign. Looking at the Warriors of Chaos in particular. That's not the case with the Greenskins. Their armies are not necessarily great in auto-resolve. They're great in actual combat, but unless you're getting doomstacks of rogue idols, which is horribly inefficient way of using resources, you're probably gonna have to fight battles manually, which is good. You also have the entire wand mechanic where you declare wand against the target and every single army in your campaign gets an extra army. Now, I am curious to see how Creative Assembly balances this out in the next DLC. I think some climate situations could be better. Grom's campaign could be better. We know that they're redefining Warzag's campaign. Makes sense, and giving more Savage Orc options. That is great, but and maybe they'll do for Warzag and the Savage Orcs what they ended up doing for the Slayers, which, like, yeah, Slayers were pretty crap and pathetic before, but now they're a perfectly viable strategy for Dwarves. But I'm curious, because I hope they don't ruin it, because whatever you might say about the Greenskins, they work. They work well on a theoretical level, they work well on a practical level. They do have some weaknesses you have to keep in mind. In particular, if you're dealing with heavy ranged opponents, like if you're dealing with Wood Elves and they have an entire stack of Glade Guard, that can be nasty, to be sure. Or if if you let your dwarf opponents get Thunder Barges, which honestly you shouldn't. Like, honestly, if you're playing a Greenskin campaign and you ever let the dwarves get Thunder Barges and then you complain about, like, ooh, dwarves are OP, well, yeah, you play like crap, you lost, and then you're bitching about the balance. That is not... That is a ridiculous situation and pretty pathetic. Like, people do this, right? There's a lot of people, and I'm gonna call it out. There's a lot of people in Total War community who do play saying on their ass, which for certain races it works, it's fine, it's even thematic. But the Greenskins are not that race. They're not that race in the lore. They're not that race in any of the games. So, you know, complaining that you played the Greenskins in the worst possible way and got your ass handed to you, yeah, that's all I have to say. It's pretty pathetic. Cosine signing out. Stay tuned for more.